Okay. All right. Made it this time. I had tried to do this video last night, but I actually was on the road and couldn't do it. So I wasn't in a good position to do it. So I wanted to move it till today. So it's been quite a day. Definitely had a long drive. I just got home not too long ago from driving about 5 hours. So I'm ready to kind of definitely relax and unwind. So hopefully, wherever you're watching this video, whenever you're watching this video, you are nice and comfortable and able to relax. So today, I want to talk about the future. And this is, of course, a subject that so many people want to know about, especially in my work as a tarot consultant. I get asked about the future more than anything else, and it is certainly the sexiest question, but also, in my opinion, it's also the weakest. So obviously, there's all sorts of things we can consult the tarot on, or I guess if anyone else who works in any sort of uh, divination practices or anything like that. People always want to know about the future, what's coming their way, what are they headed towards, and it is, obviously a question of great mystery and great significance because it's all about the future. Like that's what everyone wants to know about is what is going to happen to them in the future. And the reason I believe it actually is the weakest question to ask regarding the future is because you have no future. That is probably the simplest way that I can really answer why to me the future question is probably the weakest. The future is something that can never happen to you when you think about it. The future, the concept of the future is always our figment of our own imagination. It is simply a way for us to process what we now know as time, which is moving through space. And we are able to make sense out of the chaos by coming up with this concept of time and neatly packaging things into past, present, and future. But the truth of all of this is that really we never can reach the future. The future is always going to be out of reach. The only time that we ever are going to have is now, the present, which is right now. And I kind of like to view as asking about the future is kind of like getting in a car, sitting in the car, and then asking, am I going to get to Boston? Am I going to go to Albuquerque? And sitting in the car and asking this question. And of course, the right answer is, I don't know. Are you? Like, if that is your plan, it depends on what you do. It depends on what you do right now that determines if you are going to get there. If you want to get there, then the right answer to ask is, how can I get to Boston? How can I get to Albuquerque? How can I get to this stated result? And that's really the kind of the meat of the question that we always ask about where we're headed. And that's why. So even though I know that asking about the future is going to be the most popular question to ask, that is actually why I would prefer, I think it is going to be more powerful for you, is to already to know where you want to go and ask how you can achieve it. What do you need to know? What do you need to do in your present situation in order to reach X destination? Because if you know where to go, where you want to go, it's all about what you do with right now, with the present time, with the knowledge, with the action that is going to give you that result. So I definitely encourage, and I even mentioned this, obviously, if you do consultations with me, I encourage action-based questions as opposed to very fate-based questions, which really are, number one, again, you really can't reach the future. You can only use the present. Everything that you want is achieved right now in the present. The future can never be reached, number one. And number two, the future question is a very passive question. It really implies that we are waiting for things to happen to us, and that we are not really participants in our own life, that we don't really have the power in our own life. And this is something that I disagree with completely and utterly. I am completely all about the power of you, of your actions, of where you're headed. And I believe that we are constantly living choose your adventure. We're constantly second to second to second to second arriving at different crossroads of where we can have 1, 2, 3, 4 infinite choices, in which case we can head off into infinite directions. And because of that, your future is constantly in flux. Even as an imaginary concept, your future is constantly being rewritten as you move throughout your space, as you move throughout your day, and as you make choices. So the future can never ever be tied down. It can never be solidified and concrete, because everything that you do is constantly changing it. And even the potential different directions that you are making, also can cause you to move in different directions, and for you to constantly be rewriting. It's like a disc that you're constantly writing, over. Back in floppy disks, back when I was in like freaking elementary school, middle school, where you're like constantly writing over a disc over and over and over. It's really impossible to land at a said future for many of these reasons. Okay, so instead, I definitely encourage you to know where you want to head, and then ask the action questions. What do I need to do to get X, to get where I need to be? Really think about it as being a more of a GPS question, and asking this. And this is something to really remember when you are visiting anyone, who could be potentially like a psychic or a tarot instructor, anyone else that you go to get information. It is not just in spiritual matters, but even mundane matters. Try not to think about it as you heading the future being this concrete fate-based thing that you're heading towards. It's really not. The future doesn't exist. You have no future. You can never ever reach the future. The future is always out of reach. It's an imaginary concept. All you have is the present moment. All your entire life is one long present moment. It's simply our perspective as humans that causes it to be so neatly packaged into past, present, future. Because if you ask something that lives exponentially longer than us, like say you ask the 30 billion year old universe, about time frame, it would basically think like a human life is like that. Like literally, humans born, humans dead. Because its concept of time is so vast that anything that takes up such a tiny little minuscule aspect of his whole existence, it would think is like, that's nothing. It's like literally a flash in the pan as a human life. It was one present moment, boom, done. It's only the present that we have. There is no future. So you really, really want to think about what you can do, ask what you can do right now, what you need to know right now in order to bring about your end result. And truly, as well, I had another thought about it, but it kind of went away. I might remember it. I might remember it in a minute. But yeah, so really think about it being one present moment that you are in. This is all that you have really to work with. Okay, the future never really comes along. Now, that being said, is the future a fun and often very interesting concept? Yes. And it is certainly okay to ask about the future and see where you're headed. Now, but however, I like to tweak it a little bit. Future, again, seems to imply that we are stuck on a path that we have no recourse to really change. It is a very fate-based concept. I personally, and I know a lot of other people who do readings and consultations also think about it this way. I personally like to think of it as what I call current trajectory. And what that implies is if you continue on the path that you're on, what can you expect to unfold shortly? So this kind of is a way to view the future, but it also puts an emphasis on what you're doing and how you are contributing to your results. And it also places an emphasis on the fact that if you don't like what may be coming your way, you simply must change what you're doing right now to bring about a different aspect and to bring about a different result. And so I tend to use that more. Current trajectory is kind of a way to kind of view the future position, but it really kind of underscores the lack of permanence, the temporariness of the future, and just the fluidity of it, and how really it's the weakest position, because oftentimes this is true when we ask about something in that we want to know about the future. Often, if we really are careful and listen to our intuition, we already know that we're headed in a good place, or often a bad direction. We already know that we're not feeling really, really good about this relationship that we're in. We already know that we're getting some signs, which is why we're asking about it. So we're more looking for validation of the way we feel than to actually ask, I have no idea what's going to happen. And that in itself is also pointing out to asking the question of how we can change the way things are happening. Okay. So again, just being more recognizing of the power of the present. Quantum physics is now explaining, like, this is it. Present time is all that we have. Everything that you do, everything that you experience can only take place in the present. The future can never be reached. But we can always ask how, play around with it and ask what we're headed towards currently. If we continue on the current trajectory, what can we expect? And if we don't like that the way we're headed, how can we change the direction to get to where we want? So definitely the power lies in the present always. Future is truly a fantasy. It's a fun fantasy. Play around with it. It can current trajectory version of future can certainly give us information so that we can take back our power in the present and do what we need to do to get towards what we want. All right. So I hope that was, I just really wanted to talk about that because that happens a lot. And it's something that, especially when I read at festivals, I call, it's the most common question. And I always want to talk about how, like, it's the present. Let's talk about the present, So that is it for today's video. And I'm going to go and unwind and have a drink, I think. And I hope that you relax and have a wonderful weekend. And we will see you next time in the next video. So be well and stay safe and be blessed. Take care.